Thank you. Next up, if I could ask Ms. Manzo, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Butis?
Here.
Commissioner Pond?
Here.
Vice Chair Simidalis?
Here.
Commissioner Taratsas?
Here.
Commissioner Filio?
Here.
Chair Sigmund?
Here.
And Commissioner Hoffman's absent.
By way of introduction, my name is Stacy Sigmund. I'm the chair of the Plan Commission, and I'd like to take the time to thank each and every one of you for being with us tonight. Copies of tonight's agenda are on the table here in the middle. Feel free to step up and take one if you'd like. I'd also like to ask everyone to take a moment to silence their phone, including me. Make sure you did that. Thank you. The first item on the agenda, as always, is the approval of the meeting minutes. These are from the June 11th, 2026 Plan Commission meeting. Does anyone have any amendments to these draft meeting minutes?
No.
Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the June 11th minutes?
I move to approve.
Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Then for the record, it's been moved, seconded, and after a vote, the meeting minutes from the June 11th Plan Commission meeting are hereby approved. Tonight, we only have one item scheduled for public hearing. As you all know, the order for business for each agenda for the public hearing is going to be as follows. There'll be a staff introduction. We will have time for public testimony, as this is an amendment to the code, and then the Plan Commission members will deliberate and make a recommendation to the town trustees. For code amendments of this sort, the Plan Commission acts as an advisory board to the town board of trustees. As always, we have staff in attendance tonight to provide us with a presentation of the agenda items, answer our technical questions, and to work with the Plan Commission to ensure we understand any proposed amendments to the code. Normally at this point, I take about 5 minutes and go through a whole outline of public testimony and how that portion works. But seeing that there's nobody here in the audience that I believe wants to testify, I may just skip that and say, welcome. We're going to move right then, if I could, to opening the public hearing on the proposed amendment to section 30-10-10-101 of the Town of Berthoud Municipal Code regarding the Historic Preservation Advisory Committee. I'd like to ask Ann Johnson, our Community Development Director, to introduce this first item.
Thank you, Chair Sigmund and members of the Planning Commission. So the town has a number of different ordinances that impact all of the different committees, from Historic Preservation, Planning Commission, Youth Advisory Committee, the Port Committee, for example. And our new town attorneys have realized that having a number of ordinances that direct policy and procedure, and then some ordinances contradict, there's a lot of nice cleanup, and they've taken the lead to help clean this up for us, make sure all of our ordinances are consistent and directives to committees consistent. So what's in front of you tonight, there is no big presentation, because what we are proposing is to add the following sentences, which I will read into the record since we do have members here in the audience. And this will be a brand new section 30-10-101. And again, it's for historic resources. And it establishes the role of the Historic Preservation Advisory Committee. This new addition then will move all the other subsections down, and so we just renumber them. This is the only change that's being made. And so I would, because there are individuals in the audience, I would like to just go ahead and read the sentences. So again, this is an amendment to section 30-10-101. The town of Berthoud recognizes that certain significant historic resources located within its boundaries contribute to the unique character of the community and are irreplaceable, and as such merit preservation. To further this goal, the town has established the Historic Preservation Advisory Committee. And because that is a code language, we have to go through a public hearing process to approve, and you all will recommend approval or denial of this request to the town board of trustees. And then the town clerk at the next public hearing with the trustees will then take this and present with all the other committees. This is the one that dealt with Chapter 30, so that's why you are hearing it tonight. So with that, I will conclude the staff presentation and just ask that in your recommendation, if you do make a motion for approval, to recommend approval, noting that this is the new section 101 and all other sections will be renumbered sequentially. And that's it. I am open to take any of your questions.
Is there any initial questions for staff before we open the public testimony portion? With that, I'd like to open the public comment period. Is there anybody present who would like to comment on this agenda item? Okay. Hearing none, we will close the public testimony. The next step, as always, is the Plan Commission deliberation and vote. Normally, we kind of start with a discussion, questions for staff. We then deliberate because we usually have a set of standards because this is just a code amendment. We don't follow that same sort of list. So we can just do questions and deliberations, and completion of all that, we will then entertain a motion. So I will open it up to any commission members that have questions on this.
I think it's pretty straightforward. I mean, this is just a minor amendment, an easy amendment, quite honestly. Okay. Any other? Yeah.
Any concerns, anything before we entertain a motion?
I just had a quick point of clarification. So this is in the municipal code, but different than the land use code.
It is in, so chapter 30 of the municipal code is called the land use code. So section 10 of chapter 30 is a historic preservation section of the land use code. So we're amending the land use code, which is a chapter of the municipal code.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else? If there's no comments, concerns, or other deliberation, I would entertain a motion.
I move to make a recommendation to the town trustees to approve the amendment to section 30-10-101 of the Berthoud Municipal Code regarding the historic preservation advisory section, and all other sections will be renumbered.
So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do we need a roll call vote on this? Okay. All opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you. All right, we're moving right along. The next thing we have on our agenda is 3 different discussion items. The first is a discussion item on Proposition 123. It's going to be an update on our town's outcome experiences relative to housing diversity based on our commitment to Proposition 123. Ann Johnson, again, our Community Development Director, is here to walk us through those highlights. Ms. Johnson, if you can start us off, and I guess I just want to add commission members, this is a discussion item. So at any point, just hop right in and ask questions. We can kind of just do this as Ann goes through her presentation.
Yep. And there's no visual presentation. You'll all just get to read and go through this. So for those in the audience, in 2022, Colorado voters approved the concept of, and by doing so, established the State Affordable Housing Fund. The nickname is Proposition 123. So the objective of Proposition 123 is to provide funds to local communities and counties with the goal of increasing the volume of affordable housing in all of those communities. So the goal was to increase affordable housing by 3% every year over a 3-year commitment, therefore increasing it by 9% over 3 years. Communities, when they ascribed or made the commitment to Proposition 123, which the town trustees did in October of 2023, then that opened the door to a lot of different funding opportunities for those communities in order to perpetuate the goals of affordable housing. So, again, in August, so what the town did is in late 2023, then, because of our commitment, the town received a grant in the tune of $100,460. And then we had local match requirements of another $25,000 to work on the housing diversity plan, which many of you spent a lot of quality time working on with members of the town board of trustees, the school district, Loveland Housing Authority, and Habitat for Humanity. We all worked on that. The town trustees then adopted that on April 22nd of 25. Then in May, because we had that plan, the town was able to apply for another grant from DOLA. This one was in the amount of $41,600. And that plan was to deploy action plans in our housing diversity plan. So we adopted the housing diversity plan, and then right away we got more money in order to deploy some of those action items, including a fast track guidebook, which allows developers, if they develop a project that has at least 50% guaranteed affordable or attainable housing, they can go through a fast track development review process. So we hired consultants to help us develop that process. And then they also developed fun videos that are animated videos online. They're posted online now that show people how to go through the fast track process, as well as how to go through the standard process, the building permit process, and any engineering processes as well, to just be more engaging to the public. And then there was also review of opportunities regarding land and water banking that the consultants prepared for us. We went down the path of water banking. However, that proved to be very difficult. The state didn't allow water banking. A lot of organizations and granting agencies don't allow purchase of water for housing. They want water to be staying with the land. So we had to pivot mid-study and take a broader look at other tools, including land banking, which is a town purchasing or somebody donating land. We set it aside just for affordable housing developments. So that all then wrapped up on May 12th of this year. And then in fall 24 through October of 25, town staff also met with the building and the development community to find out what it is in our code that needed to be worked on. You all then spent time going over that code, and so we adopted that in December of 2025. In summer of 2025, the town also met with the builders and the development community to find out what is cumbersome about our development process. And that, again, that was a big rewrite of our land development code. In July of 2025, the town trustees also expanded Ordinance 847. Excuse me. That's the ordinance that waives building permit fees and can even waive the cash in lieu of water dedication, which is right now $25,000 for a standard home for those that are building for Habitat, that are income qualified homeowners. So we did allow up to 2 structures every year to come in and ask for a waiver of some of our building permit fees. The town trustees, because of your recommendation, raised that to 10 a year now. And we had our first one come in and was approved last week. So that's exciting. Then in May of this year, due to the work performed by y'all with the housing diversity plan, our fast track process, and our commitment to Proposition 123, we were awarded a no match $50,000 grant to help perpetuate affordable housing in Berthoud. And that award will go directly to Habitat for Humanity. We will be working with Habitat for Humanity to hire engineers, to hire appraisers and surveyors that will survey some properties that they're looking for. And then by the town hiring these contractors, we then will be able to reimburse up to $50,000. So again, that's lowering their overhead and bringing housing to Berthoud. So all of these things have led up to a recap of our first 3-year commitment to Proposition 123. So it's a lot of work. And then Bella is going to start managing the town's housing. We don't have a housing authority. However, she's going to take over keeping track of grants, and there's a consortium. Would you like to tell a little bit about the consortium? I know I'm putting you on the spot, and I apologize.
No worries. So the Housing Consortium is a group of town staff that sit on the consortium as, folks that guide the conversation, and builders and developers in town who are interested and involved with developing affordable housing and housing opportunities. So it's a quarterly meeting where we convene, discuss kind of the state of the union in terms of housing in the region as well as locally here in Berthoud. We discuss what opportunities in terms of grants are coming down the pipe from organizations like DOLA, and try to work together to think of solutions to housing here in Berthoud.
And then Bella also is attending some regional forums on housing so that we get to understand what other communities are doing. They get to understand what we're doing in networking and sharing resources and helping each other. So it's really blossomed in the past 3 years. So and the really fun thing is we had a goal of 39, right? And in August of 25, there were very few communities that could meet their goals because the calculator the state provided was really very tight and strict. So in August of 25, they let all the communities who had made a commitment to Proposition 123 know that they were changing the calculator, and that change is based on the number of bedrooms in a home. So our calculator in Berthoud for a 4-bedroom home, it can go all the way up to $700,000 is an affordable house in Berthoud. So all the way down to $300,000, and that's based on Larimer County statistics that DOLA provided to us. So with this new calculator then, Berthoud, out of 530-ish building permits issued for new residential construction in that 3-year time period, Berthoud had 29% of what was constructed meets that threshold, or 174 units. So with the next round, Bella and I are going to be meeting with the state to determine, because they're changing the calculator again. And so they're now meeting with the state. We'll be meeting with the state to determine what those new levels are. Should the Board of Trustees want us to pursue this in the next 3 years as well? So I'm going to be presenting the same items to them next week. And if they choose to have staff look at this, we'll be looking at what the new calculator says for Berthoud. It's going to be very difficult for Berthoud because we don't permit multifamily, and it's going to be hard for us to meet these new requirements. So there are some exemption and waiver processes that we can apply for. We just have to figure out, number one, does the town want staff to expend our time looking at this or not? So that's where we are with Proposition 123. I wanted you all to know about that because you expended quite a bit of time on the housing diversity plan. And I wanted to bring this information to you all as planning commissioners to see the fruit of your labor and really what Berthoud was able to accomplish. And we were only able to accomplish that because of the change in the calculator last year.
So that calculator is strictly based on new permits, correct?
Well, the state allows a lot of flexibility with rental units and apartments. However, because of that new calculator, we didn't have to find out how much people are paying rent. We didn't have to require deed restrictions. We didn't have to require a lot of things that other communities were dealing with, because these were all natural, what they call naturally occurring building.
Okay, but they were new builds.
These were all new
All new
builds, no reconstruction. Now, what I've heard is that if we would get a big hailstorm during the next 3-year period, which we've had now twice in the past 2 years, even replacing the roof on a structure that was within that affordability band area with the new commitment, even that may be able to count because it's making an improvement to an existing structure that would meet the qualifications. So there are a lot of new changes, and naturally occurring housing may not be able to be counted. And that's why it's going to be more complicated for staff taking a look at rents and watching that. However, we've got a great building permit team, and one of our building permit technicians has access to real estate transfers, and it's just been a really big help. So we're going to look at it and see what this entails, if the board thinks that they want us to spend time doing this.
Okay, and then you mentioned that Berthoud does not permit multifamily.
Berthoud has not permitted, has not.
Ask about the definition of
Yeah, what is
multifamily
that?
and
Because
what the
there's been
state definition
townhomes and
is.
stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
it's really apartments. I mean, townhomes, sure. Condos, not a lot of folks do condos because of construction defects law in the state of Colorado. It's mostly apartments, townhomes, triplexes, attached, single family attached. They could meet. I just don't know what this new calculator is. And so with the lack of multifamily, so apartment buildings, those are really where you get your biggest bang for your buck if you're wanting to promote affordability. So because we don't see number one, right now we have several applications for multifamily. However, traditionally, it's just something that Berthoud hasn't considered. And just developers don't come to Berthoud to build apartment buildings.
Yeah, but you said multifamily, and I mean TPC has townhomes, so that I think is a multifamily.
Yes, it
So
is.
You're saying we haven't done it recently, or strictly for like apartments?
In my mind, Commissioner Semidalis, I was thinking about apartments,
Yeah, gotcha.
and you are correct
Yeah,
that
okay, so-
that triplexes and townhomes meet that definition as well. Not so much duplexes, because we see duplexes as single family attached. So freestanding single families and then the single family attached would not meet that clinical definition. I was just thinking of apartments
Yeah,
in
no, I get
particular.
that. That's
Yeah.
I just wanted to
So no, I'm really glad that you clarified that. Thank you.
Okay.
I think it's-
Definition wise, what is the difference between the Prop 123 affordable housing and diversity of housing from the housing plan?
So the Prop 123 plan focuses on affordability and attainability, and there are those levels, and I don't have those levels memorized what they are, but I believe affordability is 80% or less area median income, and attainability is 80 to 100%. area median income. So in our housing diversity plan, we have vignettes of what type of person would qualify for affordable versus attainable. And I believe the area median income might be around $80,000. So so if you're at that 100%, that would be attainable housing. 80 to 120% of that income level would be that attainable, and then 80% or lower would qualify for affordable. Did that answer your question? Kind of, sort of, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Would you ask it again so I can?
The housing plan that was done, that we worked on for over a year, that in the end recommended housing diversity. How does that differ from the Proposition 123?
There's no difference. What the housing diversity plan, well, the housing diversity plan said, hey, Bertha, you have a lot of X, this type. You might want to diversify and get more of Y.
Okay.
Within that Y, we even have some homes in that missing middle that go a little bit above the 120 AMI. So there's that missing middle, those homes that are $400,000 to $600,000 are missing in Berthoud. However, based on that sliding scale, depending on the number of bedrooms, they would still fall within that attainable affordable housing calculator for Proposition 123. So they're saying, our housing diversity plan is saying somewhat the same thing. Hey, you need more entry level, more affordable homes for either seniors to move down or new families to move in. And yet the diversity plan is also saying you just need more than one type of housing in Berthoud, which we've been seeing a lot of in the past few years. Yep. Did that answer better? Okay.
Just to clarify, the multifamily, the definition is 3 or more independent dwellings.
I believe so. Yes.
So it sounds like the previous grants you received came from 2 different programs within DOLA.
They
One
did.
for the planning portion, and then another, the affordable home ownership and the local planning capacity grant program.
Yeah, one was from the More Housing Now ! program. And then the other one was from, More Housing Now! And then the local planning capacity. And then our local planning capacity grant from DOLA then got extended for that extra $50,000,
Right.
which is no match.
And that you said was really targeted for habitat, for like engineers and what do we have, engineers and.
Surveyors, title
Now,
work.
Just to be clear, that is for the town of Berthoud, right? They have to spend that money in the town to get their grant. Okay.
Yes. Yep. And we worked with DOLA and Habitat for Humanity to get this grant. We don't have any other nonprofit organizations in Berthoud that are building homes which have income qualification. So anybody else was precluded from applying. And we could have applied for yet another plan, to develop another plan. And to be quite frank with you all, I was tired of plans and tired of putting things on paper and not seeing things built. So we made the decision to forego any extra money to help us plan. And we wanted to get the money out to help people build.
And the water tap fees that you mentioned, again, that was for Habitat too, for permits. And we've had one so far since we approved.
I believe we had 2 last year, and we've had 1 so far this year, and I know that there are more on their way.
Oh, good. That's
Yep.
what I was gonna ask.
Yep, and that is that comes from our general fund. That doesn't come from any other fund, and we don't get grants to do that. We set aside a certain amount of money in our general fund every year to cover that. We do not waive fees there's an Alpha Line agreement, which is a reimbursement agreement that we're obligated to for a developer who pre-installed, they upgraded some lines. So we cannot waive that fee. I believe it's $550. And then our water plant investment fee and our sewer plant investment fee, we cannot waive those funds because we actually need money in order to improve the water treatment facilities. So in the end, about a $30,000 building permit fee is whittled down to about $14,000 to $17,000. And Safe Built, our third party building inspection contractor, they've also waived their fees. And then when you put that 20 some $1,000 with the $25,000 for the raw water equivalency, they're saving $45,000 per building permit. It's a substantial savings.
What's the criteria
For that,
to get that grant? I mean, how do you confirm that they fell within the guidelines to get that grant when the house is finally sold?
so that's a great question. It has to, in ordinance 1355, I believe it is, it says that it has to be a non-for-profit housing developer that qualifies individuals. And then for that particular waiver of the fees, the attorneys asked for additional documentation from Habitat for Humanity to ensure that the long-term affordability index would be met, and it was determined that they meet that qualification. So anybody is eligible. It's just right now in Berthoud we only have Habitat for Humanity that's qualified.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. And that concludes staff's presentation. If you wanted to, there's no motion needed. If you wanted to just pass on, yes, we'd like to see staff investigate what the second 3-year term for Proposition 123 is, or no, we've had enough. We don't want staff to expend time. I'm happy to pass along your perception of the situation to the trustees. Yep. Yep.
Any thoughts?
Are there more opportunities to get other non-for-profit builders or organizations in here that would make it worth the time and aggravation to actually spend tracking this?
So currently, as Anne mentioned, only Berthoud Habitat for Humanity is building operating as a nonprofit builder in Berthoud, unless a builder like Loveland Housing Authority would want to come in. That's kind of, we're looking at just Habitat for now, but that's kind of the state of nonprofit builders.
And that's also part of the reason why we're having this housing consortium, so that we can reach out and find other individuals by working together as a group. Now, of course, that is competition, right, for the 10 allowed every year. However, we'd like to be able to give out the 10 waivers every year. And so if somebody else approached the town, of course, we would love to be able to work with them. And by Bella attending these regional meetings, there are opportunities for her to get to know others and introduce them to what Berthoud offers.
Does anybody know how much the most recent Habitat house costed in Berkeley, in a ballpark?
Yes. Oh,
The
their
cost
construction
was,
cost.
whatever somebody has to pay for one of those houses.
I do not know that off the top of my head. However, we can do a follow-up to you in it, just an email follow-up.
Okay.
Yep.
And where do these non-for-profits get the property? Is it still coming out of like new developments?
So there are certain lots in new developments, such as Harvest 47, where they've purchased a portion of the lots, and then there are some other builders as well that will be building there. But it's up to them to, identify the lots they'd like to create, and a lot of time that's them working with a larger developer to set aside a certain amount of lots of a certain size that are, suit the product that they prefer to build. But yep, it's up to them to acquire that land.
Yep. The developer of Harvest 47 actually donated 9 of those 29 lots to Habitat for Humanity. And then in Legacy Park, that developer is working with Mission Homes. They're not a nonprofit organization. However, they do provide housing that is affordable and attainable. And so the Legacy developer is working with a builder that can provide a housing type that meets certain criteria. They're just not they're not an income qualified product or process.
Because when we did that field trip, I think it was 2 years ago, we went by that Habitat community. And that was, I think, entirely Habitat. So they must have purchased the land or had it donated or something.
Yeah.
So the birthing process is that they're not gonna get something like that. They're just gonna spot them in different communities right now.
They could. I mean, if a developer, and we would hope that members of our development community would be altruistic and have some lots that they could donate to Birthed Habitat for Humanity or any other nonprofit organization to build housing. We would hope that the development community in Birthed would see that type of partnership is positive. And we do have a developer who is donating a lot of services to Habitat for Humanity right now. It's just they're the only act in the game right now is Habitat for Humanity. Yep.
Anybody have any thoughts on the plan commission on whether we want to try to just make a recommendation to the trustees that this continue or does it stay in?
What is the
Fine.
staff?
Staff is, of course, we're open to housing diversity. And I believe once we understand what the criteria is going to be, we'll be able to evaluate, do we think we can do it?
Well, I think that's key before
Yes.
a recommendation is made.
Yep. And we don't want to proceed down that road until we get an inkling. Are you even interested in us going down that road? Because it might take, 10 hours or so to put it all together. And would you all want us to do that or do something else? Do you as planning commissioners find value in exploring what the next 3 years of Proposition 123, a commitment would look like?
Yeah.
And I will say that if we do not meet our commitment goals like we did this time, because now I've entered this and you see that we've been accepted, other communities in our area, in Larimer County and even in Weld County, that didn't meet their goal, we're able to share our excess with them so that from a regional perspective, our region might be able to meet the goals. So Birthed is able to share. And when you ascribe to Proposition 123, funding doors do open for you. Now, if we did not meet our goal this time, we would not have to give the grants back. We just wouldn't have to sit out around and not apply. So let's say we do ascribe for the next 3 years, we do get some grants, and yet we fall short of our goal. We don't have to give that money back if we would go get some grants this next round. We just would have to sit out around.
I think you really can. I think there's two things here, right? First thing is, what are the criteria, right? Because criteria could either make or break.
Mm-hmm.
And then understand how that fits in our community, right? Is if the criteria doesn't even fit in the town, then obviously that's your answer. Then the other thing is too, Habitat is like the only game in town kind of right now, right? So unless someone else is really coming in and there's an area or a location, I think there are areas and locations that would be really good
Mm-hmm.
for that kind of community or, housing development, but, is anyone interested in building?
Right. And there are two locations that Habitat is pursuing outside of Harvest 47. One would be an infill project, and another one, well, I guess both of them are infill projects yielding about 20 more units
Oh.
to Berthoud.
I think what you're asking though is, do we think it's even worth exploring this next round?
Mhm.
So looking at the criteria, figuring out if it does or doesn't fit. And I personally think we should explore it. We've devoted 3 years. We've adopted a plan that says this is important to the community to at least look at. Doesn't mean we're gonna, once you take that, whatever you said, 10 hours to
Mhm.
look at the new standards and criteria, we can make an educated decision on whether we want to go forward with it. It may or may not make sense for us.
Yep.
But I think it makes sense to at least explore it.
Yeah.
That's my
Yep.
personal opinion.
Yep. I'm just wanting to know, are you happy with the results? Would you like us to explore? And I'm not really asking for, any directive from you all. I wanted to present the findings and our results because of your commitment in the past. If you want to send word to the town trustees that you're okay with staff exploring, I'm happy to present that.
I think it would be foolish if you don't explore an opportunity. It doesn't mean you have to commit to it. But I do think that I think we owe it to the town to explore. And really, when you think about the long range plan where things will grow and develop here, it probably makes sense, especially because it's been pretty stagnant from my perspective. When I look at like bringing in businesses and stuff like that, we've heard this story about you have to have affordable housing if you want to grow your revenue base and bring in business and stuff like that. So I think we would do ourselves a disservice if we didn't at least explore it.
Okay.
Is this gonna be another grant funded? Like if we pursue this again, it would be funded through grants.
So if we wanted to do planning and, prepare documentation and research and review of policies and everything, potentially we could get grant funding through that. Or maybe there will be a new grant that's available to bring other housing or do land banking, something like that could occur over the next 3 years. We just don't know what that grant funding will be and what the economy holds and how much money the state can give during that 3-year period. However, if they do have grant funding, a community that's made a commitment to Proposition 123 will have access to those specific funds, versus if we don't make a commitment, we would be ineligible to even apply. Yep. So I don't know what the grants look like or what they're even thinking for this next 3-year round. It's just if we don't commit, we can't even access them.
And again, it's affordable, attainable housing. It's not like Section 8 stuff.
It could be Section 8 because that is more workforce housing and supportive housing. That is, I believe, 40% AMI and under.
Mhm.
And so if a developer came forward and said, I'd like to do something like this in Berthoud, and they meet the criteria, you all would see that. So it could open up the door to anybody that's doing building of homes 120% and under of AMI. So that's about annual salary of $100,000 to $120,000 and under. That would benefit that community.
Again, just so Anne can represent it as she meets with the trustees next week, does anybody think we should not? Okay. Great.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Great presentation.
Our next discussion item is on the consideration of an update to our 2021 comprehensive plan for the inclusion of strategic growth element. This is something that we are going to be required, or we are required to do under Senate Bill 24-174 of the state statutes. This has to be done by December 31st, 2026. We have 2 staff members on the report that we're going to kind of help us with this. Of course, our community development Director Ann Johnson, and our planner, Lakin Dixon. So Lakin, if we can hand that over to you to start us off. And again, commission members, this is just kind of a discussion, so at any point, just hop in and ask questions if you have.
Great. Thank you. So, as Chair Sigmund mentioned, this is a strategic growth element. It is another state requirement that must be adopted into comprehensive plans by December 31st, 2026. The overall goal of this requirement is to create a strategy for discouraging sprawl and promoting the development or redevelopment of underutilized parcels to ultimately address housing needs. It requires these three components that you see on the screen: describing existing policies and tools, analyzing vacant and underutilized sites, and then analyzing undeveloped land that is being considered for future development. The purpose of this element, as stated by DOLA, is to analyze local conditions to understand where growth should occur, how growth aligns with community needs, how it affects infrastructure and costs, and how natural and agricultural lands can stay protected. The benefits of this element include efficient development by focusing on underutilized land, fiscal responsibility by reducing sprawl and the extension of services, productive development by prioritizing development near transit and jobs, and resource conservation, focusing growth inward to preserve natural and agricultural lands. We're also developing this element in coordination with this Neighborhood Centers program. This is a pilot program also introduced by DOLA. It designates existing or soon-to-be mixed-use pedestrian-oriented areas as neighborhood centers. These centers are designated by local government, and it aligns very closely with this strategic growth objective, furthering housing needs and then also walkable environments. So this is just a high-level outline of what the strategic growth element will consist of, similar to that first image you saw on the first slide. So component 1, we have our policies and tools that align with strategic growth objectives. Component 2 focuses on analyzing underutilized sites near transit or job centers, and then that will also include assessment of public benefit and then assessing the general feasibility of doing this. And then component 3 focuses on analyzing undeveloped sites that are being considered for future development. And then this will also assess general feasibility and go into a fiscal analysis as well. And that is all I have for you. We are still working with DOLA. They're still giving us updates on requirements and everything. So we kind of are moving along at their pace as well. But I'm open to any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you
Thank you.
remind us a little bit of the timeline that you guys think when we'll start to see this? Because it'll come back to us, correct?
Yes, I know Anne and I were talking about it today. We are hoping to come back to you all by August, I believe. Yes, August 8th, I'm pretty sure, or the 13th, and then town board on the 25th.
And Chair Sigmund, if I may, there are three components as Lakin indicated on the slide, and DOLA has given us the green light with minor tweaks on component 1, component 2, and they just approved a target for component 3. And so now with the green light on that, we've proposed how we intend to meet the fiscal analysis to DOLA, and we're waiting to hear from them if our methodology is correct. We're trying to do everything in-house for an affordability factor for the town, and we think we can get there. Lakin's been very successful having getting DOLA support, getting information back from them. I think DOLA really likes working with Lakin. We're one of the first communities to really start pushing this forward. So Lakin is their test monkey on all of the questions and everything, which has been great. And then staff also from operations, public works, our engineer are offering like in really good input too.
And this is the first, this is the first strategic growth element that DOLA is having municipalities implement. So there's no template to go off of. And so I think they're used to getting all these questions, and it almost helps them kind of craft what they actually want as well.
So I know we
Oh, go ahead.
I know we talked about this before in another topic in another meeting, where Birth Ed really has grown tightly, and we don't have a lot of actual spaces yet to be developed within our comprehensive plan. So, is this more about documentation and meeting the statutory requirement as opposed to not necessarily seeing a huge impact on the actual comprehensive plan itself, particularly like the land use map? That makes sense.
Yeah, I would say definitely meeting statutory requirement for sure. We're also trying our best to align it with the comprehensive plan. So for that component too, one of the underutilized sites that we are considering is the old town hall site. And it is town owned, so it's a little bit more feasible to work with and develop something there or redevelop something there. I hope that answered your question. That's what I got from it.
Wasn't sure if it was gonna how much of an impact it would have to an existing plan we have, or is it just a matter of putting it on paper the way they want to see it statutorily?
I
And
think,
probably both, it sounds like.
yeah, I mean, I obviously meeting the requirement, but I think DOLA and any municipality loves to see alignment with existing plans. So as much as we can align it, we will.
And it's really interesting because one of the questions that DOLA is wanting to get response to is what is the fiscal impact to a community for growth and for growth that might be a little bit farther from the center of town or an infill project. And this is a question that honestly for 30 years that I've been a planner, that planners have been asked, what is the true cost of growth? And it's very difficult to quantify. We can easily quantify the annual mill levy impact that's collected with our taxes. We can collect the one-time fees that are collected at time of building permit for the special assessments. We can collect the impact to schools. We can collect the impact to the fire protection district. What is very difficult to collect is the financial power of individual families moving into individual homes because it is so diverse. And somebody driving three super heavy cars in their home versus a neighbor driving one light car in their home, and comparing the overall wear and tear of roads. One family having a lot of children that like to play outside versus an elderly couple that don't go outside and hit the parks. It's very difficult to quantify what the true cost of wear and tear of development is on a community. And communities and counties where I've worked, and it's a very big question, and nobody's going to be able to give us a pinpointed result to that question. So I'm actually excited to see what DOLA collects as a result, because after so many decades of communities questioning this, maybe we'll be able to get to some answers.
So they don't really have like a criteria, right? It's just it sounds like they're looking to collect data to maybe come up with a standard for creating a cost. Is that kind of what I?
Yeah, so around the same time that what year was it that they adopted this regulation? Was it in 2024?
I believe so.
Yep, so in 2024, the state adopted a mandate that we have to have water conservation in our land use code.
Yeah.
We have to have a housing diversity plan, which as we were getting ready to adopt ours, the state said, hey, with these minor tweaks, you could actually do a housing needs assessment. So we tweaked our housing diversity plan to the housing needs assessment with, thank goodness for our DOLA representative who caught that. And then the third item that we need to have by December of this year then is the strategic growth analysis component. And the state, these new initiatives go to DOLA because they're so good at the, Division of Local Affairs of crafting and working with communities. They didn't even get the criteria for this until, was it April?
I think so. Yeah.
Finally
And they're
polished.
still updating it too.
Yeah, which leaves communities, and I provided them with the background. It's like, all right, if you want this adopted in December, that means we have to have our final document to the town board in November, because then 30 days later it becomes effective, which then means if we have 2 readings in front of the town board, or 1, depending on what it is, and then we need to go to planning commission before that. So when you reverse engineer this, then they realize that, oh my goodness, communities really only have 4 months to get this done. So I believe that the ask of DOLA is being reflected representatively based on the amount of time that communities have to finish this project. So our approach to DOLA is, let's do a mill levy assessment for a standard home, an average home in Berthoud. We're going to guesstimate the number of units that could be on a property. What is the cost to extend infrastructure to service at a level that's high quality? And then what is the cost or the revenue that would come into all of these our impact fee funds for a average building? So we'll be able to see what the long-term mill levy and taxation is to communities and special districts. We'll be able to see what that one-time impact fee collection is at the time of building permit. And we're getting information that we can control on how do we extend service to support that development. And again, what is unknown is that long-term economic impact of individuals shopping at Hayes, shopping downtown, filling their car up with gas, and that tax revenue over the long term. What does one home at a certain price, how much does that really generate over the long term? That's the secret question that we cannot quantify. So we're hoping that they're going to go with the way Lakin presented, and but you'll know in about a month what happens.
Can you
because it's
see
gonna come
some
out.
of that with the growth that we've had? I mean, obviously Berthoud has grown a huge amount in recent years, and we should be able to see how our local sales tax, for instance, is growing with that, right? So as we compare the years, I mean, does that give you a general idea that would help them?
Maybe.
I mean, again, I know it could be people from other parts of town coming, from other communities coming here, but it kind of it should track somewhat, right? I mean, it's.
I think one of the costs too is there's costs that's almost not, and I guess you could quantify it, but how hard is the town working to get the new people to shop downtown, right? What kind of restrictions does the town have in developing their own properties? Is the town fighting itself on that piece? How do we bring in new stores, new restaurants, and who's that person who's going out there and saying, see the vision? Because when you drive down the street, I think it would be hard to kind of sell some restaurants and some stores to come here. So you really need to have that person. So then do you end up hiring somebody who's just the visionary out there to go get people to come here and to convince the people that move here to stop going to Loveland and Longmont because they're used to it? Because a lot of people that move here are from nearby. And so they just continue their same shopping patterns. They don't, it takes them a long time. It takes them about a year, sometimes a year and a half, to really start to recognize the downtown when they've settled enough to be able to, have that time. So I think there's all those additional costs as well in terms of how do you sell the town really to its own, constituents. And I'd be interested. I did notice that comprehensive plan and the strategic piece, it did overlap a lot with what we'd already seen in terms of the safe, walkable, bikeable, access to jobs and all of those things. So it seems pretty cool that it seems to already kind of match what they're looking for.
Yeah.
And I'm just hoping that might be a way to convince our own town that when the town does try to develop buildings and does try to develop areas that we can move forward at a quicker pace. Because the state also wants the same things.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, that was a huge part in component one is listing existing policies that we already have that promote strategic growth. And so we'll also pull from existing master plans too, like our housing diversity plan, and see how those align to kind of promote this and move it forward.
And with our code change in 2025, we really scrubbed our code, and Bella is one of the first gatekeepers for when businesses change, when the occupancy of a building changes. Bella is able to sometimes turn those change of use requests around in 24, 48 hours. So there are a lot of things now that we've built into our code that help businesses get going faster. And we're always open to, can we do more? You know, can we do it faster? Can we do it, it just continuously improve? So we're always open to those ideas, and Lakin, what is it, 3 pages of things on section 1.
Oh, yeah.
We have 3 pages
Yeah,
of everything
2 to
that the
3.
town is doing in order to incentivize development and redevelopment.
I look forward to
Well-
seeing the final report.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like somewhat unfortunate. Kind of wonder where like the Association of Counties and Municipalities are at when talking to these legislatures. Like, hey man, we're already doing this. What do you think we do with our comprehensive plans? But kudos to you for complying and working on these unfunded mandates. I will say though, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, but the thing that stands out to me on the things that you are focusing on is what is the effect of metro districts in this. That kind of is what stands out to me, especially from an infrastructure standpoint and the cost, if that's what they want to dive into. Because I think there's a trend to get away from them, and that certainly has an impact on this. So that's maybe where my biggest curiosity is, and I look forward to maybe exploring that in a month or so.
Yeah, we're not going to touch metro districts, Commissioner Terrasas, so we're not even going to go
I was
there.
gonna say, I like the question though.
It is a great
I think we all like
We
the
all want
question.
the
yeah.
answer.
We're just not going to go there, and so maybe that will be with the next amendment.
Yeah, scratch that from the record, please.
I have just a general planning question.
Sure.
Is it true that the center of the town, the municipality, can develop infill more efficiently than they can the further out you get from all the infrastructure? And so it costs the town whatever amount, they can't quantify it, but it costs less to develop closer to the center of town than it does further out. Is that right?
I want to say yes, because there's less of an extension of infrastructure and services. I mean, they're already there in the center. And that's also going to be a little bit of a comparison from component 2 to 3 is what underutilized land are we working on, and how much will that cost us in comparison to developing undeveloped land that might be a little farther out east. I was reading a little bit more on the criteria today, and they definitely want to compare those two for probably their own data, but also ours as well. So it'll be interesting if you have anything to add to that, Anne.
So when it comes to safe, walkable, and bikeable,
Yeah.
what about golf cartable? Berkeley residents love their golf carts.
Yes, we do.
You know, if we had golf cart like lanes, you know, I mean, maybe people could really get into it. You know, battery operated golf carts. You know, golf cart town.
Golf carts though are not allowed on mountain because
Nope.
it's a state highway, so that
So it
takes
could go like
that
around.
out.
Go around.
Trail.
I see the vision.
Takes me a long time to get to Grace Place because of that.
Well, thank you, Lakin, and Ian, for all your work you're doing on this.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing the final stuff in a couple of months.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Our third and last discussion item is with our town attorney, Nicholas Hartman. As all of you know, over the past few months, the planning commission has had, I think we've had just a lot of question on our roles, our responsibilities, our procedures. Unfortunately, Attorney Hartman was not able to be with us at the last meeting where we had the chance to talk with Cirsa, but he's got some of our questions that were left over from that. So we've got a whole bunch of things that I think he's been teed up to kind of address with us. But again, tonight's a little bit like the last time where it's really just an open discussion and, you know, opportunity to kind of talk about how we function, our roles, and but from the village's side of things, as far as the town attorney side, the town side, of these villages.
Are you from Illinois?
Yes, I'm from
Yeah.
Illinois. If I could hand it over to you, Mr. Hartman, that would be great. And everybody just hop in and ask questions. We seem to have a lot of them, as you may have read from our meeting minutes the last time.
Yeah. Good evening. I'm excited to talk to you guys. I sit at a lot of these meetings. I rarely say anything. So I'm excited to actually have a presentation to talk to you guys about. I have those questions that Anne gave me that I'm happy to go off of. I have a PowerPoint. I don't love PowerPoint, so I'm happy to get off of my PowerPoint and not use it. But so we're gonna go in and I'm gonna try that. So every question Anne sent me, I have a slide for ish. Then I have a couple extra ones of things that I think are important to hit, and then just some here and there things that I can probably breeze over. So if you guys have questions at any time, please interrupt me and let me know, because I'm just going to kind of go through them. So tonight we're going to talk about things on the slide. We're not going to talk about the things that Cirsa talked about. So that's Cora, open meetings, running a meeting, legislative versus quasi-judicial decisions. I saw Sam's presentation. I've seen it many times. I think he covers that excellently. I don't think there's any need for me to get to it again. So this will be a more targeted presentation. Again, I think Sam hit this pretty well. What does a good meeting look like? But I wanted to reiterate it. I wanted to lead off that I've been seeing you guys long enough, and I've been to the town board a couple times now. You guys are excellent at running your meetings. You go through all of the criteria when you have a land use decision thoughtfully. You make sure everyone's had their say, and you discuss things, and you have your discussion, and then you have your motion, and you move on. A bad meeting, which I've sat through a lot of bad meetings, is people talking over one another, people bringing the public up, the applicant up, sitting them down, bringing them back up, talking amongst themselves, thinking of things that the applicant can or can't do. Appeasement and placation versus substance. So now I think this is first question. This is my number one question that Anne gave me. Making conditional approvals during deliberations. So you guys, it hasn't happened yet since I've been here, but you're always welcome, and planning commissions often do. They make approvals with conditions. Approvals with conditions, especially at the planning commission stage, I've seen them help get decisions through because certain individuals don't like a piece of it, but they like the idea as a whole. What you don't want to do is make conditions. There's two big things I think are important about conditions. One, making subjective conditions or conditions that are not based in the code, and two, making impossible conditions. So first one first, I one time sat through a PC meeting at a different jurisdiction where there was I'm not going to say, it was a residential multifamily development. And the conversation devolved into what color the building would be, the size of the patios, how reflective the solar panels were on the roof, because there was some housing that looked down on the roof of this building. Those are all bad conditions. When they made it into the PC motion that went to the town council, I, at the town council level, tried to get them to not make those same conditions to the applicant on their final approval. Those are conditions that are not grounded in the code. Code conditions are meeting setbacks or providing a different setback, parking, things like that. So that's one. Two, conditions that are impossible. Without calling out a specific application, I have recently seen at the town a discussion. Let's talk about a hypothetical instead. Let's not talk about that one. Let's take a hypothetical. Let's say we have a hypothetical and your applicant comes in front of you with a multifamily development and they want to put 15 condos in this one development. And then you say, well, that's just not enough density for me, but I will approve, but it has to be 100 condos, something kind of ridiculous like that. They're never going to meet that. So there's no reason. And then that one sounds ridiculous, but I think you guys can think about ones that are less ridiculous, but are still impossible. If you are giving your applicant something they can't meet, they want to get approved. They are probably going to say, without speaking for developers, they're probably going to say, okay, we will try our best. And then they will get your approval of 100 condos on a whatever acre plot, and then they will move on to the town board, and then the town board will probably not adopt that finally. So you don't want to put yourself in a position where you're making impossible conditions because they're never going to be met. Okay, questions on that? Because that was my first actual question from Anne.
Yeah, I've got one.
Yeah.
Like what about like in procedure? There's like
Mhm.
some error or something, and then like there's a condition that falls. Hypothetical. Something comes in front of us. They present one thing, but they also have a second plan that's not presented. You know, like I thought that was handled really well, but I want the legal side of it.
Yeah, hypothetically speaking, the application that's, I tell my boards, the application that's in front of you is the application that's in front of you. And with exception, because I don't like making hard and fast kind of black and white rules, but with exception, there's really only 3 answers you should be giving: approve, approve with conditions, or deny. When you have these, sometimes you'll see them, the variable applications. It's going to be about sussing out what the variable is and when it's important. Let's take a different variable. Let's say that you are looking at approving a zoning and a zoning for multifamily housing. And they come to you and they say, well, we want a zoning for multifamily residential, but we're not sure yet if our building's going to be blue or red. And let's assume that you have design criteria down the road where you'll approve blue or red, right? On some instances, I think it is right for you guys to be scrutinizing of, well, that's not what we're approving now, but it's hard for me to think about that not coloring, no pun intended, not coloring my decision because I know that's coming later. On a certain level, you might just have to let it go, right? You might have to say, okay, fine, I understand he hasn't decided if it's going to be blue or red. We approve that at a later time. That's bothering me, but here we are. I think the best way to do that is to say, well, we approve the zoning designation, and I think Anne is excellent at making conditions or not needing to make them, is we approve with the condition that the town board consider choosing red instead of blue. That being said, that application is that red versus blue application is probably going to come in front of you later. So it might be an opportunity to just kind of save that for the time being, because that's not a condition of what you're approving that night. But it is hard and it is frustrating, and I totally get it.
And kind of to that last statement,
Mm-hmm.
is it true? I guess I believe it is, and I want to confirm this with you.
Yeah.
That when we have land use cases that are likely to be a little bit more complex or more controversial,
Yeah.
where there's a potential to have conditions, the plan is to have you at the meetings. So we have staff, we have you. So I guess I want to make sure that you feel comfortable.
Yes.
If we start in a process where we're kind of thinking about conditions, is it okay with us to draw you in and sort of talk to staff or talk to you and say, hey, help us maybe shape a condition? Is this too far afield? Is this something that comes later?
Yes.
And you could advise us at the meeting, correct?
Yes. When you guys are deliberating, I am actively crafting conditions. And so is Anne. And so is Anne. Yeah.
When we kind of hear like, oh, okay, they have concerns about X, we're over here kind of starting to write conditions, and then they'll go like this.
Yeah. And then,
And so
we've
it's
done
good
that.
for
We
us-
have practice
it's
in
good
that.
for any of us to throw it to you or sort of bring you into the conversation, correct?
Yes. Ultimately, though, they're your conditions, right? Not ours. That is the one thing, and you guys haven't done this, and I don't think you would do this, but that is the one thing. I mean, you are more than please kick it to us, but be ready to have it kicked right back to you, right? Where it's like, okay, well, we think that what you're asking for is this, and we think a good way to word it is this. Is this what you're saying? and you guys need to be the final deliberative body to say, yes, that's what I'm saying, or no, that's not what I'm saying. You don't want to be in a position where you say, well, I think I was saying that. I like what you said, so you go for it, right? I'm not appointed. You guys are the ones that are appointed. But yes, please, anytime. Okay.
So you softening us up for like a multifamily?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
It's just hard to sometimes it's hard to think
You're
of examples.
preparing us.
Yeah. I think this one is pretty straightforward. Electronics, you guys are good at not using electronics. I'll have a story about this one though. I have been at meetings, at least one jurisdiction, multiple meetings, where Gadfly residents, call them that, have noticed that certain council members, board members are on their phones during meetings, and that certain other board members are on their phones during meetings or on their computers. And they have cora'd the text messages sent from Friday night at 7 p.m. until Friday night at 10 p.m. for both of those people. I don't think it ended up turning into anything, but what you don't want to do is think that people aren't watching what you're doing. One, it's disrespectful. Two, I mean, there's a way to get at those deliberations, and if something comes out that you didn't say it or something like that, it could really ruin something. You guys don't do that. So keep on keeping on. Side conversations, that's the same thing. It's always okay to, lean over and talk. It's pretty, you guys are really close to the applicant. That's a good thing for conversation, but sometimes it's hard, to get questions answered. And sometimes you just miss something and want to catch up. So keep it to that. Time limits on public comment. I feel strongly about this one. Whatever you decide on your time limits, 3 minutes and 5 minutes are the most common. Whatever you decide, I strongly implore you to stick with it and stick with it at every meeting for the rest of time. I have had other jurisdictions, quiet rural towns, who had a very loose public comment policy, and they really didn't have any rules. And it often was question and answer because it was local residents and they knew each other, and it was really no big deal. They had a series of very, very controversial developments come in all at once, and they were not ready for it, including a development that caused the little town hall to fill up with about 250 people. And they had no rules about public comment. So we were able to say on the fly, okay, there's a lot of people here. We're going to limit to 3 minutes. And it ended up being okay. But what you don't want is, because a lot of the people came from out of town, it was kind of a statewide thing. But what you don't want is someone local saying, well, we sit here and have conversations all the time for 5 or 10 minutes. I'm not happy about that 3 minute rule. I'm going to sit here and I expect answers because I get answers from you guys all the time. That's what you don't want to do. And sometimes that's hard. You guys are bigger than that town, but you're still pretty small. And what you don't want is this expectation that you're going to have a conversation. For one, as general business making during a general comment period, which the town board has, you guys don't have. It's just, you create problems. You make me worry about the answers you're giving, the questions you're asking. When you're in a quasi-judicial hearing, you step away from just kind of bad meeting management into a serious, we're going to get into ex parte communications in a second, but it's not technically an ex parte communication because it's during the hearing, but you're really nearing the point where you are blindsiding your applicant by a single public commenter coming in and saying a bunch of things that you have no idea if they're true or not. So what I always think, and I think when Catherine and I were here the first time we talked about this too, have your time limits, let them speak their piece. Thank you for your comment. If you have follow-up questions, I would ask staff first. And then if staff is like, I don't know, they might be a good person to ask, then maybe you can bring them up to kind of follow up on something. But I would keep your conversation with them to an absolute minimum.
So we've had 3, and I think for some of the newer members, we've debated whether 3's okay. Sometimes it just feels weird, right? There's an empty room and one person, 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Time. And it's because we're pretty strict at that. I think moving forward, we have a new timing system.
Mm-hmm.
The plan commission used to have to one of us would sit there with a little timer. We're hoping we can get staff to do that, so we can just focus on what's being said and not watching the clock. But
I think that's
it is. And then I think Bella or one of the staff members will assist us in those bigger meetings when they take place. But For now, it's 3 minutes. If anybody has a strong opinion, I'm going to a different time, 4 or 5. Yeah, one of the questions we had was, well, on a meeting where it's empty, can we give somebody 5 minutes? Because it's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
And I think your opinion is it just needs to be consistent. Pick a time and stick with it.
I would say that to go against what I just said to you, I think it's okay when you have an empty room, right? And it's like, you know what, there's no one here. We're going to give you 5 minutes tonight. There's just not a lot of people here. But I think it is much easier to go from 3 to 5 in an empty room than it is to go from 5 to 3 in a full room. So I think what you guys have right now is good. I think if it's empty and you want to go to 5, I think that's okay, as long as you make clear, like, hey, there's not a lot of people here tonight. We're going to do a 5 tonight. And then again, what's really even more important than that, at least for me, is cutting them off at the time you decide and not having that conversation, that back and forth that extends into 5, 10, 15 minutes. I will say, like I said, I've sat through a lot of these meetings in a lot of jurisdictions. People run out of things to say after about 3 or 4 minutes. It's just, I mean, once they start getting to that 4th and 5th minute, it's a lot of rambling and repeating, and they get themselves all worked up. So I think 3 minutes is a good one for that. Okay. So my next few slides are about quasi-judicial decisions, which I said we weren't going to talk about.
Can we go back one slide? Sorry.
Yeah.
Because the little last bullet point was the motion.
Making clear and timely motions. Oh, I missed that
okay,
one.
so I want to make sure, because at one of our last motions, there was a question about a motion for denial. And then
I have like 3 slides
we
on
had
that.
a question. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Never mind. I want to make sure if you want all of our motions in the affirmative as opposed to a motion
Yeah.
to deny.
That's going to be like the keystone of the presentation.
Okay,
I've actually
never
asked
mind.
multiple
Sorry.
attorneys in my office about it. No, you're fine. I'm happy you brought that up because I did want to say that too. So a lot of this, I don't want to say it's attorney preference, it's board preference. It is kind of attorney preference. It's parliamentary. When I am at meetings, what I love is you guys have all your, and you guys do this. So again, keep on keeping on. Although I think at the last meeting, you guys started the strike, because I know I put this on the slide for a reason. Clear and timely motions. When I say that, I think the best, clearest motions for the record, for the applicant, for the public, for the board itself, you get all of your deliberation out. And then I say here, best practice motion, second vote. You get all your deliberation out, you call the motion, you get a second, and then you vote. What I don't like is, and what really I think is, and again, it's not a legal thing. I think it's just disrespectful to your fellow board members. If you have a motion and you have a second, right, and you say, and let's just say the roll call is down the line, right, and you vote and you vote and you vote, and then you, not to call you out, are like, well, I'm just not so sure about this. And then it devolves into some kind of conversation. They've already voted, right? So you're kind of disenfranchising them of the conversation that's now being had, and they can't revote. So it's done. So what you want to do is, once the voting and once the motion's out there, really the only things I want to hear are a second and a vote. If the motion goes out there and no one seconds it, and it's like, well, I'm not done talking about it yet, then that's okay. So I guess maybe the better way would to say, once you hit your second and you go to your roll call, you really need to be done talking. And if you didn't get your point out, too bad. And not to be mean, but it's like, you don't want to, that's really not fair to your other board members. Okay. So that was my last point. We're going to talk about affirmative motions a lot. I think I'm going to go through these a little quickly. Quasi-judicial decision making, I know you guys talked about it already. I'm saying don't put too much weight on the quasi because of the next things I'm going to get into here. So you really should think of yourself as the judge when you're in a quasi-judicial. And when I say don't put too much weight on the quasi, I mean put more weight on the judicial. I mean, really think about transforming yourself from a legislative body to a judicial body. And if you were in court, you would expect that the judge is not having side conversations with people before the hearing, getting information that you're not privy to if you're on the other side. So you should treat applicants with that same respect. I have a lot of slides here on ex parte communications. It's probably overkill. Did you guys go through ex parte with Sam? Okay, good. So I think it's overkill. Do you have any questions on it? Okay. I don't think I need to go through it. I think you guys are pretty good at that.
Can I jump in and say something?
Yeah.
You can always use staff as your shield.
Yes.
If you get a question, you see somebody at the grocery store somebody's coming into your store. I know you're on planning commission. I really need this application. You can say, hey, if you talk to me about that, I can't be an impartial judge and vote on it. You really need to be talking to staff. And here's an email, here's a phone number, you need to talk to staff, don't talk to me. Because then they're putting you in a really bad situation. Yeah, so it's not fair to you as planning commissioners when the public does that too.
And I also think you can be on the scary side too. I don't know how much that happens with you guys. Hopefully not a lot, but I think you can be on the scary side too, where if someone's really pestering you in the grocery store or whatever for an opinion, you can say, hey, and they really hate this or whatever. You can say, hey, not only can I not talk to you about this conversation could endanger how the vote goes, and the vote could go the other way if we continue to have this conversation, because it could get overturned by a 106. I don't know if Sam talked about 106s, but they're the motion. It's just a court term for the motion you use to overturn quasi-judicial decisions. Okay. I do want to spend some time on this one because it's quasi-judicial and it's kind of not. There was a slightly heated conversation towards the end of a meeting I was at recently with this board, where it came to a discussion about how much do we lie on the criteria versus how much do we lie on our personal opinions. And I think that is the hardest thing that you guys have to weigh for yourselves. On the one hand, you are on this board to apply the criteria to the application that's in front of you. But on the other hand, you are on this board for your knowledge, experience, and expertise at doing that. So it is not going, you can decide that it's going to be a clean black and white thing. And you're probably going to end up approving most, if not all, the applications that come in front of you because staff are ironing out that in the background, and applications are likely not going to come in front of you that have clear errors, right? You're not going to get a residential in an industrial zone or an industrial in a residential zone or something like that. So there is always going to be a gray area. And your goal is not necessarily to reduce or eliminate the gray area. It's to take the gray area and ground it in a condition based on your own thoughts and feelings and how you feel about something to a certain extent. I put here, I believe the comp plan suggests housing versus I hate malls. Thinking about, you get a mall, there's a mixed use, or I don't know if you guys have a lot of PUDs. I don't think you do, if any. Yeah. So PDs that's one where there's a lot more. One of my probably my biggest client is almost all PD. So there's a lot more flexibility there, and it makes it a lot more easier and difficult, right? Because on the one hand, it's easier because there's a lot of flexibility. One of the criteria is what's in the best interest of the town, right? So, I mean, you can plug anything into that. But on the other hand, it's not a lot of certainty for the applicant, and applicants don't like that. So I don't have a lot to say on that. I think it's just something to meditate on when you guys are having those internal deliberations and external deliberations, is deciding when something is an opinion because it's someone's opinion versus this is how you feel about the criteria as applied to the application. And those things can be really hard to differentiate, but I think it is there if you guys are strong commissioners, and I think you are. Okay. Ex parte, so many slides about ex parte. Conflicts of interest. Conflicts of interest are difficult. So Anne asked me, said you guys really wanted to see the Colorado Code of Ethics. Here it is. I'm not going to read it all, and this is not even all of it. These are just good local government sections. The issue with the Code of Ethics, kind of, in conflict of interest guidance generally, is that it usually has to do with money. So if you read through here, right, 2A is substantial financial transaction. B is substantially affecting economic benefit. C is accepting goods and services. Personal or private interest, that has to do with kind of money too, right? I think there are more conflicts than money. Money is the easy one that people tend to know. The hard ones are, my brother is the developer. I own a house across the street from the development, things like that. Those are the ones and planning myself, we are always happy to weigh in on conflicts of interest that are not blatant. My advice is always that at the end of the day, it is not my conflict of interest, it's your conflict of interest. If you think you can hear this application in front of you equitably and fairly, and you're not worried about it, I think you should always disclose it, right? You should say, well, I think, this is a conflict. I think I can still hear this application. Then I think you should do that. If you think you cannot hear the application fairly and equitably, and you should recuse yourself, then I absolutely want you to leave. Because what I don't want is for you to not say something or say it and it become a big deal later on and it throw the application or the decision that you guys made. So long story short on conflicts of interest, I think they're up to you, which I'm not saying that to give you carte blanche to never recuse or to recuse when you don't want to be here some night, but it is for you to, I think for you to really decide at the end of the day, if you can really hear that or not. Money and personal relationships are the two big ones where I'm going to tell you to leave, and your job, which is kind of a money one, and a personal relationship one. So, okay. Code of ethics. I put the citation here. I didn't bring a copy. Anne asked me to bring a copy, but the citation's down there if you want to go. Good, well-reasoned decisions. I think you guys make excellent decisions. I don't have a lot to add to this. You guys go through the criteria one by one. You read them well. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add to that. Articulating the basis. Again, you guys do this really, really well. I would sound insulting if I said you did this too well. Sometimes you guys really hone in on the criteria. I think that's okay, but I think sometimes it's okay to be like, you know what, I think we're there. It might not meet it to the black letter throughout, but I think this one's met. Don't take that and run with it though. Keep doing what you're doing. I put variance in here. Variance is a good one because I know you guys are also the Board of Adjustment, I believe. Variances are hard. They probably should never be approved. You really have to show, I'm not going to go into why to approve a variance or not, but variance is a really good one because of the hardship component. And it's really, really clear. There needs to be a hardship to the property, not just to the person. I've seen variances in other jurisdictions get approved because the person is really nice and they just really want to put their fence back up the way it was and it's too tall and I know, but I just really hate my neighbor and I'm tired of looking at him. That is not a hardship to the property. That is a hardship to the person and they need to deal with it.
And in Berthoud, the first criteria for approving a variance in our new code is now the reason the variance is being requested cannot self-imposed.
Oh, interesting. Good one. Yeah. Variances are hard. Like I said, I put that in there, kind of we solicited further discussion from before, but I think Sam covered it and you guys seem to be good at it.
And there was a reason why you all approved the development code the way it is. I mean, sometimes there is going to be something that is beyond the control of some wacky situation. However, you approve the development code for a reason. And we don't want people to stray from the design standards or the zoning standards or setback or whatever. You want Berkeley to use compliant.
Comp plan. This is confusing. You are not the first nor the last board to be confused by the fact that the comp plan tells you exactly what should be on a lot that's undeveloped. And then we tell you, don't worry about it. So it is non-binding. I pulled these in quotations. These all come from, I didn't cite them in the comp plan. I apologize, but they're all in there. I think these are not in the comp plan. These are in the development code when they reference the comp plan. The goals and objectives of the comp plan, it's consistent with the comp plan. This informs the vision of the comp plan. Section 31, 110, I am going to read it in whole. I apologize. Well, this relationship between the comp plan and the code is reaffirmed. It is the intent of the town of Berthoud that neither this code nor any amendment to it may be challenged on the basis of any alleged nonconformity with the comp plan. So what does that mean in layman's terms? That means that if you approve something or disapprove something, deny something based in the code, people cannot say, well, the comp plan says that this should go here, so therefore your decision that is based in the code was incorrect. It should always be based in the code. If you read the code in the comp plan and they differ, the comp plan loses. The code wins. So again, the comp plan should be informing and guiding your decision. you when you're introduced with this, the comp plan appears to be at your detriment because you have this big thing that tells you exactly what to go here, and then you see it, and then the application is grounded in what's in the comp plan, but you read the code and you say it's just not here. I don't see it there. I'm sorry, and you deny it, right? And the applicant gets pissed because the comp plan said that was okay. The more you start to use that as a tool that helps you, the better. The fact that you can rely on the code and you can use the comp plan to inform your decision about why you're basing it in the code. It takes time. It is confusing. Comp plans are frustrating. No jurisdictions in Colorado use them as binding, except for one, and they lie about it. They don't use it as binding. So, at least one I know of. So that is confusing. Is there it's Westminster. Is there any questions on that? Because I know we spent a decent amount of time at not every meeting I've been at, but a few meetings I've been at where that's been confusing even during deliberation. And you're the one who's usually confused.
I am with this new criteria, especially. My question is like, yes, I am usually.
It's hard. It's really hard.
So in the new criteria, and I don't know exactly the like verbiage on it, but I believe it like has something that allows us to be able to say, hey, this doesn't go with the land use map or the vision or something. Like, how does that work then if it's like it's non-binding, but like it is part of the criteria we can use to like.
Sure. So like I said, I mean, I think look at it from your detriment to your advantage, right? Use it to say, this is not what the comp plan is envisioning here, and I don't know the actual wording of that criteria. Yeah, but I think I remember it. So just kind of taking it as a whole, you can use that as, this is not what the comp plan envisions here. Don't let that be used against you, right? Don't let that say, well, it's exactly what the comp plan is envisioning here. I would just come back and say, no, it's not. That's not how I read the comp plan. And I think it's as easy as that. Again, you're never going to get applications that are as easy as the examples I'm giving, right? But I mean, a mall versus residential. Something's clearly supposed to be commercial, allowing like, I don't know, an in-law suite above the coffee shop, right? And you get introduced to a huge condominium complex. That's not in line with the comp plan. Or maybe it is. That's for you to decide. That's not for them to decide.
What about the opposite? Because I think that's what we struggle with.
Sure.
It meets the basic terms of the code.
Yeah.
It meets density. The use is sort of listed there. Setbacks are there. There's no code violation. Right?
Yeah.
Or no deviation.
Mm-hmm.
But the comp plan has a vision for something a little bit more.
Yeah. Again, that's kind of where you can use that to your advantage. That's where you can introduce kind of this fungibility. This is also kind of a punt, but that's kind of like where you guys earn the big bucks too, right? I mean, thinking about making that hard decision about, this is just not right, as long as it's grounded in the code. It could be that a project you do not like comes in front of you and it dead the rights meets every single criteria. And you might just have to say yes because it meets all the criteria. And I say that with some trepidation, right? I don't want to make it ever seem like you guys are pigeonholed, but I don't want to make it seem like you guys can you don't want to back in, right? You don't want to be pigeonholed by the conditions, but you don't want to back into them either and say, well, I just hate this for a million reasons. I'm going to find a way to say no. You don't want to do that either. I don't really know of any applications I've ever seen where I feel like my board has been forced to say yes. Not that it doesn't happen, but it may, but it's just unlikely, I think.
Can I have that language if you want me to read it?
Yeah.
So there's one of the intent, this is the intent section, which now replaces the individual criteria for approval. So every land use development now has to meet these criteria. So it's criteria B. And it says adhere to the vision established in the comprehensive plan, land development code, overlay districts, and master plans covering the property, including the land use code and underlying zone district, the land use code development and design standards, architectural guidelines, landscape design guidelines, engineering standards and specifications, flood hazard mitigation, geologic hazard mitigation, and other plan specifications and guidelines that may impact the property. That's like the whole kitchen sink.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be your out too, right? That's going to be the one. That's your best interest of the town condition.
I have a question. I heard somewhere, total rumor, not sure if it's true or not, that if a developer purchases land,
Mhm.
we can't stop them from developing there just because we don't want them to actually build anything there. Is there like a state law or says the developer has a right to build something because they own the land?
That might be like a vested rights thing. I think there is a vested rights statute about when you buy land, you get state vested rights, I think, regardless of if I think that is something, but vested rights doesn't mean you get to build whatever you want. It means you get to build what is in conformance at the time that it vests. So maybe yes or no, right? So maybe if you introduce something new to kill a specific development, maybe that's kind of
Well, it kinda
what
go
that
to
rumor turned
takings,
into.
Right, so if you take away, if somebody you bought a land
Ooh.
that is zoned for a certain thing,
Yeah.
and the town takes away the right to do that, then you could end up in legal trouble, right? You can't
Yes.
just take some and say, we just decide we want this open space, so we're not gonna approve anything.
Yes.
In, because we like open space, that's a taking, right, and that village would not prevail in that.
It may be a taking. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so even looking at the map behind you, let's say that that scenario was a property in gray, that's an industrial zone property. Let's say that the developer comes forth and says, I followed your zoning, I followed your landscape, all of these guidelines, and I'd like to develop industrial use here. And planning commission makes a determination, we really want that as an open space property instead. So no. That
Yeah.
I think is you can't preclude, if somebody buys that property in gray, the town has already said the zoning, the future use can be industrial. We can't then pull that away from them.
Or a more nefarious one, which is kind of like that. But say you have industrial is a really good one. So say you have an industrial property, right? And they put in the application, and at tonight's meeting, the second public hearing is about that being industrial, but the first public hearing is about rezoning that property, just out of coincidence, from industrial to residential, right? Then you're going to get called huge foul because obviously, right, it's not coincidental. You're rezoning it to only go to the very next hearing and say, oh no, sorry, this is residential and you have an industrial idea. You guys would never do that, but you'd probably get crushed if you did. Crazy things happen in other places. I've never seen that, but it's my job to get creative.
So, and that would then be like a town initiated rezoning to preclude the developer next on the agenda from doing what they have the right to do because of that zoning. And then the town tries to circumvent and downzone. And that can be a taking as well.
Yeah. Takings are, spend too much time on taking. The federal law for taking is, the federal rule is that you have to take away the entire economic benefit of the land from the developer or the owner. In Colorado, it's lighter, and it just has to be, you have to take away a substantial amount of the economic benefit. So it's a little lighter, still substantial, but in federal law, it's the entire economic benefit. Yeah. Any other questions? No. Okay. Here we are, the grand finale. Motions practice. So there was a little bit of like a row last meeting, right? Where it was, well, do I move to approve or do I move to deny? So I thought about that really long and hard. And then I got in my bike rack and I crashed and I was in the hospital for a week, and someone had to cover another jurisdiction meeting of mine, and they had the same question come up. So then, and the attorney that covered with me, who is excellent, and I really, really respect and appreciate. She said something different than I would say, and I had just told you guys a week before. So then I really started to think about it, and then I ended up polling about 8 attorneys in my office about this one question, and it turns out everyone does it differently. So I'm going to tell you how I do it as a matter of parliamentary procedure. It does not mean that I am right, and it does not mean that you guys are wrong, although I'm going to tell you some things that are definitely wrong and definitely right. Number one, technically under Robert's rules, which I sleep with a copy under my pillow, you can never do straw polls. So you can never say, okay, how are we feeling? All right, you, okay. They happen, especially at local bodies where you don't have this time to deliberate, not necessarily behind closed doors, but you just don't have time. The entire application process happens before you. They happen. You have to get a beat on how everyone's doing, especially as the chair, not necessarily to know how the vote's going to go, but just to know when think about calling the vote versus, okay, well, I've heard 4 people have seemed to know where they're going to go. I might just need to call this vote and get the last 3 people online. What you don't really don't want to do is like ask like, oh, can I get a straw poll? How are we feeling about this? Especially about land use applications when it comes to ordinances and resolutions that are regular meeting items. It bothers me less because there's no one to challenge that. But the reason you don't want to do straw polls is because if you straw poll and you have a 4-3 in the negative, you don't want to be the chair that says, well, I'm the 3. I really need to get another vote. We're going to keep talking about this until I can get that vote. And you essentially end up trying to convince those people to come to your side. That's why you do not want to do straw polls, because they do have this belaboring the conversation to get to your own desired result when you know that you're in a very slight minority. So that's my big warning about straw polls. Again, like I said, it doesn't mean you can't go around and say, okay, is everyone ready to vote? Do we all know where we're going? That's not a straw poll. A straw poll is saying you and you. I think we're at 3-3, or I think we're at 4-3. Let's keep having some conversation. That's what you want to avoid without cutting anyone off. So that's my number one rule. That is actually a rule I want you guys to follow. The second rule you guys should always follow. Motions should always be in the affirmative, which does not mean that they need to be for approval. So the motion you guys made tonight was for a recommendation. That was an excellent example for what I need to talk about. You guys do make approvals, but you very often, maybe more often, make recommendations. So I'm going to go here. A motion to approve the rezone to residential. That is an affirmative motion because you are affirmatively deciding to do something. A motion to deny the rezone to residential. I don't like these. That's why I brought this up. It's not it kind of gets colloquially talked about as a motion in the negative, but it's not a motion in the negative because you're affirmatively denying. I'm okay with those 2 if you want to make them and if staff wants to give them to you. I don't like them for reasons I'll go into in a moment. But what you cannot do is make a motion to not approve. That goes with your recommendations. You cannot make a motion to not recommend because you're not doing anything. You're just kind of still sitting here, right? So if you have a recommendation that you need to make, you need to make it in the affirmative, and you need to make the motion. I make a motion to recommend to the town board, and then you need to vote no. You cannot make a motion to not recommend.
Can you say that again, just from a
Yes.
staff perspective?
Yes.
Because oftentimes we'll provide
Yes.
a recommended motion sheets, and we provide options on that so that if we're here at midnight, it's easy for you all to see that.
Yeah.
So help me understand. Can you say that
Yeah.
again?
Let me get through my next point and then let's circle back to it because what I have next is going to lead into that as well. So that doesn't mean, like I said, that doesn't mean you can't bring a motion to deny, right? So staff could give you 2 sample motions, and the 2 sample motions could say so first of all, the 2 sample motions are going to have to be about something where and this is more to Anne, sorry guys, where the PC can approve or deny an application. Because you can make the motion that says, I make a motion to approve the application, or I make a motion to deny the application.
Or recommend.
That's a different one. So those ones are both affirmative. But if you're making a recommendation, you got 1 motion option. And it needs to be, I make a motion to recommend to the town board. And you can say in your staff recommendation, you could say staff does not recommend this, right? But the motion itself has to be make a recommendation to the town board, and then you have to vote no. Does that make sense?
So we.
It is confusing.
So 90 or 95% of what we do has to be.
Is recommendations.
Recommended.
And they need to be answered,
There's
and they-
very few things that we're final authority.
Yeah, right,
So we're making a recommendation to approve
right.
always, and then we just vote against it.
Yes. And that's going to get into my second point.
So Board of Adjustments.
Board of Adjustments, we one you could deny. Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you guys also approve minor plats. So that would be a one,
We
two.
approve what?
Minor plats, I believe.
Yes.
So that's when you could do that on. The reason I always like affirmative motions is because of this conversation. When you have an affirmative motion to approve anything and it loses, everybody knows what happened. It lost, you move on, right? When you start getting into making motions, and when it wins, you move on. Everyone knows what happens when you have a motion to approve anything. When you start making motions for denial, going back to my straw poll, you might know where everyone sits and you might know this is going to lose. So if you make a motion for denial and it's a 7-0 and it's denied, that's great. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to make a motion to deny and then have it lose. Because then it's really unclear for staff and the applicant and you guys where you are at, right? Because now you have a double negative motion. You have a no on a no. And the answer to that is actually pretty easy. The answer is the no was a no, so now you need to make a motion that's a yes, and then it should be a yes, and then you move on. But it's just great to avoid that situation in the first place. Again, motions for denial can be clear for applicants. They can be clear for the minutes and the record if you were to get judicially challenged. I don't think that outweighs the risk that they have in making them in losing the motion to deny, first of all, or second, just being a little confusing about motions in the negative. Whereas if you vote to approve, you know exactly what you're doing. There's one motion needed. So that's kind of how I feel about all of that. I was going to make one last point. Oh, you can make a motion or second a motion you're voting against. So I've seen that trepidation. I think I maybe even saw it from you guys last meeting. It is okay to make a motion to approve the application and then shoot it down. It's totally
You kinda
fine.
need to do that to bring it to a vote.
You have to, exactly. You can't make rules that just stall things unnecessarily.
So a motion can be made if you're done deliberating, you're ready to move forward. Bryce, you decide, I'd like to make a motion to approve X, Y, and Z. A poll is taken, nobody votes in the affirmative, or somebody seconds it, and then nobody votes in the affirmative. At least the motion has been called and it dies. Even the motion maker and the motion seconder, they can say no as well.
Yes.
It's just calling it.
Yes.
Who's gonna call for the vote?
Mhm.
And that's what making the motion is.
Mm-hmm.
So can I ask another question?
Absolutely.
So for staff, we need to help you all by only providing one recommendation when you are not the final say. And that recommendation would be, I recommend to the town board of trustees to approve X, Y, and Z. Knowing that while you all are deliberating, we might be coming up with suggested conditions, if it's might be needed. And we're here again to support you if you choose to make that condition, or if you just, the motion fails.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, what you guys want to put in your staff memos is up to you guys. I don't love suggested motions in staff memos for this reason. Because when you have an application in front of you, you can kind of write the two motions, right? You can say, well, staff recommends approval of the application. Here are two suggested motions. Suggested motion 1 exactly what I said, or suggestion motion 2, go totally against staff and do exactly what we don't want you to do and deny it. I don't love recommended motions for that. What I prefer, again, I'm not trying to throw a lot of towns I work with put recommended motions in. Most of them put recommended motions in. But especially when you are at a PC level of a recommended level, sometimes it just makes more sense to say, and staff recommends approval. And then you can kind of work through the motion together.
Okay, that's.
But I don't want to throw you off forever, right? So like I said, don't like take this and feel like go to my superiors and say like well, Nick said we shouldn't put any recommended motions in any memos. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is if you do recommend a motion, sometimes you want to do both sides of it to make it look like you're not putting your thumb on the scale. But kind of what I'm saying is sometimes it might be hard to make both of those motions.
Could I ask a slightly different way? Because I'm
Yeah.
gonna hop in for help here.
Yeah.
If it's not in their memo,
Mm-hmm.
but it's something that's at our place that evening. So, because otherwise, I don't think you usually don't put them in your staff report. There's a
But the very
recommendation
end,
for
yes.
approval or denial, but it's not in memo form. I was just looking, like
No,
tonight, you
yeah,
don't put it,
it's
you
a
don't put
separate-
it's not in motion
It's a
form.
separate document that we get.
Yeah,
And
and
then it's
that
just
works
kind of on the
too.
place card, and it is so that after 3 hours of
Yeah.
testimony, and then we say it the right way.
Yeah.
Recommend approval subject to section 5.329, which otherwise we're digging back at
Yeah.
11 o'clock at night in the staff report.
And
trying to
that
find
bothers
the
me.
right address or that. So I like having something in front of us because it kind of reminds you,
Yeah.
and it reminds you this is a preliminary master plan and a subdivision and whatever.
Yeah.
All of those little pieces are kind of in one spot for us.
And maybe that's a good way to like bail me out of my suggestion that's maybe not so good, but scripts are different than staff memos. So like a script,
So it's
script is
script.
maybe a good place for
Yes.
that. And maybe a staff memo is just, you just leave it at, staff recommends approval. And then you can put it in the script. But even so, it's going to be hard sometimes to have two
Yep.
motions,
Well, but
competing motions, because you
Yeah,
can't move
I
to not
mean-
recommend.
staff might recommend, but I don't think they put that in. They don't put that in the staff memo.
Well, that's always their
It's just a-
recommendation.
Yeah, that's what we're
is
saying. It
always
might just be
there.
in the
I
script.
mean, like recommended action, it always says staff recommends that the plan
Right.
commission recommend approval of the town trustee.
Right.
And that's always
But
part of your
But
memo.
it's not the
But it-
script piece.
Right, it's not a motion,
detail.
it's not written
Mhm.
as a motion, it's just
Yeah.
written as a staff rec.
And I think one point of clarification too is that tonight there was just an information sheet, not a staff report. So you might have to go back and look at one of the previous land use approvals to see the full staff report. And I do believe that we provide sample motions in there, but
Okay.
it sounds like what we could do is, maybe take those out of the staff report, still provide them on a worksheet
Yeah.
similar to the criteria
Yeah.
worksheets that you use as a tool during the public hearing process, but that's not included in the staff report.
Yeah, because then on the script, you could say, right, the script could say, open the public hearing, applicant, staff, public comment, close public hearing, deliberation, motion to recommend, neighborhood master plan case number 58Z pursuant to code 30-1/111. And then that's all scripted. And then that's fine. Again, it doesn't bother me how you want to run these things, but it's just something to think about. Because that way you have it, but it's not like suggestion motion recommend, no other suggestion motions.
I do have a question for you though.
Yeah.
Because there are times when staff is working with an applicant
Mm-hmm.
and we are guiding them a certain way
Mm-hmm.
because of our land use code. And they're just not getting to where they need to go.
Yeah.
And they're not listening to staff.
Mm-hmm.
And staff gets to the point where we have to say, we cannot continue processing when you continuously ignore us.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to recommend not approving your application,
Mm-hmm.
or you need to start listening to staff.
Yeah.
And so there have been a couple cases where we let the applicant know, because of your refusal to listen to our recommendation, we will be presenting your application However, we will not be recommending approval.
Yeah.
And in the past 3.5 years, I think there's been 3 times that's happened. And 2, people decide not to come forward, withdraw their application, resubmit it, utilizing the staff review
Hmm.
as a good learning tool to how do we resubmit and make this a go. And then one in the recent, staff could not support that one staff could support, and it was a difficult decision to make. Do we support or do we not support? So what if it came to the hearing and staff couldn't support it? However, the applicant was adamant that they proceed to a public hearing, where then staff couldn't recommend approval.
Recommend denial.
Well, you
Yeah,
could still
recommend
recommend.
Recommend
denial
denial.
in your
It's
staff
still
report.
an
You're just
affirmative
not
motion.
giving us a motion for denial.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so when you say staff has to always say staff recommends approval, it could be staff recommends denial. So
Yes,
it doesn't
yes,
always have
no,
to be in the
Yes,
affirmative. Okay.
yes,
I
yes.
think I saw you notate it. Only difference is on the recommendation one. So if it's a approve or disapprove, you have 2 separate motions, one to approve, one to deny. But if it's a recommendation to move forward, there's only one, right? Is what you said?
Yeah, and depending on how you phrase it, right? If
Like-
it's an application, and I'm kind of brainstorming
If
as I
you
go along
recommend
here.
it to
If
the-
you do need a denial, you can do a recommend approval, recommend denial. Those are both in the affirmative. What I don't want you to do is recommend or do not recommend. It's a very nuanced, annoying difference.
So it's
So
like
the
the
do
number.
not-
But it makes a
To
difference to
do
me.
not recommend is,
Is you're not
It's a
is the
denial
negative,
or
and that's what I
it's
don't, and that's what I
Right,
don't
and
want.
The staff report under staff's recommendation, it can say.
Yeah,
staff does not
we
support
recommend.
and recommend.
Yeah, we do not support this.
We do not recommend approval of this application. So then when we have a motion for approval, we know staff is asking us. or
Yeah.
Suggesting they.
And
don't
and then
feel
and
they
then
should
again, we're
approve.
getting back. We're
And then
like
that's just our
leaving.
vote. We're just gonna vote against. Again,
Yeah.
if we want to support staff in a case like that.
Yeah.
We're still making a recommendation to approve,
Mhm.
even though we know staff is against the application, and then we all individually vote for or against that.
Yep.
And we vote it down by just saying no.
Yeah.
If we want to support staff's recommendation. But again, we're gonna go with the motion
Yes.
to approve.
And again, this is where we're kind of leaving my bright line rule. My bright line rule being you cannot say I do not recommend, but my softer rule saying I always like a motion to recommend approval and then saying no. But if staff really hates an application and you want to say, hey, I recommend voting, I recommend denial, then you can
Why
say that
would-
too. And then that's more my personal preference.
Why would we even have a meeting if staff, if this doesn't meet the criteria and staff is against it? Why bother with the meeting?
It's
Yeah.
part of an applicant's due process. If staff, let's say we're in round 5 of an application review, and the applicant just says, I don't have to follow your rules. I want to go to public hearing. I don't care what staff has to say. It's like, okay, fine, we're ready to go.
Has
Let's
that
get
ever
through
happened?
oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Really?
so we've
Yeah.
actually recommended denial on 2 cases. And we were going to bring it to planning commission, and at the last minute, they withdrew.
Yeah, I've
We've
seen
had
it
others
too.
where We had to put conditions.
So I think Bella has a really firm grasp on how to change the staff reports, and we'll talk with Tom as well next week. And so we'll change our staff reports not to include suggested motions. We will just let you all know, staff recommends either approval or denial. And if there is a minor condition, like you need to execute your development agreement before you can record your final plat, that will be approval with a condition. We don't like a lot of conditions here at all.
Yeah.
And in fact, that's oftentimes why developers stay in the review cycle as long as they do, because when it comes to you, you don't want any conditions.
Neither do I.
And they've done honestly, the planning group and the company, they've done a great job of it since I've been.
Yeah, I really hate.
It was good before, but now it's really good.
Yeah, I hate conditions.
So,
Because conditions, you don't have to go back to it, but they put a lot of weight on staff
Yep.
and the applicant to ignore them. Because the applicant could say, well, I don't know, I got my PC approval, I got my town board approval. You know, I'm just not going to do that condition. And then obviously there's ways to bring it back, but it's pretty onerous.
And
This
then
is
we'll-
great. Thank you for.
Yeah, sorry. I feel like I confused you guys more than I made it clear, but it's a
every
simple
verb-
rule.
Yeah, every verb
Is an
one
affirmative.
affirmative.
Yes.
That's it. So approval, deny, those are two separate verbs. You each get a positive one, recommendation one.
Yes.
It's the number of verbs.
Yeah,
Yes.
and then on your grid sheet, the criteria for approval sheet, what we can do for each individual case then is we can have a sample motion there that references like the code section or whatever.
Yeah.
However, that's not going to be in the staff report, and I think Bella has a firm grasp on that as well. So,
And again, too, I mean, I know I'm the attorney up here, but you guys can also disregard, you can't make negative motions. Don't make negative motions. I'll be very mad. But if there's a way, right, because that's what happened in my other town, where my other town does affirmative, you vote yes and you vote no on the yes, and that's just what you do. You don't make motions to deny. And so you suggested a motion to deny, and it threw them all in disarray, and I had to totally fix it next time I came back. So that's what I don't want to do to you guys, right? Where if you kind of always have the two motions and you want to stick with that, please do. Just make sure they're both motions in the affirmative. I'm not trying to, I can handle both of them, no problem. I'm not trying to throw you off. What I am trying to get you to is explaining a little more where I'm coming from about always liking motions for approval, and then delineating motions in the affirmative versus motions in the negative. And that doesn't necessarily also mean a yes and a no. There's a difference there.
and you know what, as when we get new staff, when we do new code, when we have new attorneys, there's an opportunity to always, continuously improve what we're doing. And the first couple times when we're voting this way, or when you see the staff report, it might be messy. It might feel awkward and uncoordinated. However, after you do it 3 times, we're all gonna be good and we'll get the old way. So we're here to help.
And if you hate it, go back to the old way.
Yeah.
Nothing like I said, I mean, and this is probably actually a good place to close. I can take plenty more questions, but in closing, you guys are great. You guys are excellent, and Anne is great, and staff is great. You guys do things really, really well. Trust in your guys' ability to keep doing things well, and you will do really well. You guys handle your meetings expertly. I have absolutely no legal qualms or concerns about what you guys do here. I'm more than happy to weigh in, as I just did for probably too long, about what a motion is. But like I said, I love Robert's rules. And it's bailed me out of a lot of crazy situations.
Well, much better to have it now than when we're in the middle of making a motion with a room.
Yeah.
Full of people. So.
Well, even better, I'm not going to tell the story because it's awkward, but it's actually not, it's a town that's nowhere close here, but I had to use the Robert's rules after the decision was made, to go back and say, well, we actually did that wrong. We need to go remake it. We need to go reconsider it. And it was a huge pain. But we did do it. So we were able to use it on the back end, and we can get there.
And I'll tell you that one of the first planning commissions I attended coming to Berthoud, we forgot to officially open and close public testimony. So we had to go back. We realized what had happened. And then we had to wait and re-advertise planning commission hearing. So a month later, we had to come back and just say, all we're doing is rehearing to open and close public testimony. And so we had to do that. And so things happen. Sometimes it hasn't happened in the past 2 years, but sometimes we forget to publish the notice. It happens. It's not intentional. There's no intentional, there's no nefarious, kniving and scheming behind the background or anything. I think things just happen, and we're here to support each other and pick each other up, and here we go.
Yeah, and certainly as commission members, and we know that as the chair, I have a script that's been carefully vetted by the new attorney, and they've made tweaks based on how they think it should go. But if there's any part of the meeting that you're not liking how it's running, or you think there's a better way, certainly bring suggestions to your staff, and to the extent we can make modifications again, like we talked about the number of minutes and stuff, it's certainly a discussion was approved.
Yeah.
I do have a question for you all to help you. So let's say that there is a land use case. It is golden. It fits all of the criteria. Everything is great. There isn't anybody here to vote against it. How do you all feel about still going through each individual criteria? And please weigh in, setting the record versus stating criteria A, B, C, and D, we believe has been met for these reasons versus each line item. I don't know what your opinion is.
I have an opinion two ways. One, I sit through planning commission meetings, town council meetings, town board meetings, or land use hearings, open and close in 5 seconds because they open, no one's here, everything's good. They close, deliberate, vote. They all use resolutions pretty heavily. So what they do is they pass a resolution and the resolution has all of that in there. So they don't really need to talk about it because it's papered. You guys don't use resolutions that often. So that might be a reason to at least very briefly. I think we had talked about when Catherine and I were here the first time, our first meeting with you guys, going through and basically saying, staff has provided an excellent staff memo that's in the packet. They say that criteria 1 through 5 are met. Does anyone have any questions? No. Do you guys agree with basically adopting staff's finding for criteria 1 through 5? Yes. Close the public hearing. Ask for the no one that's here. Close the public hearing. Deliberation says that as we've talked about, staff have found this meets the criteria and we agree, and you vote. You could do that. It's an element of risk too, right? I mean, if you have something that's non-controversial and you meet all the criteria and it's in the staff memo and there's at least a tacit acknowledgement that you guys are good with it, there's not probably going to be a lot to challenge there, right? And who is going to challenge that? That's always my own number one question, is the who, not necessarily the what.
I think you suggested earlier, because since I've been here, we've always, not here, but here.
Yeah.
We've always gone through each and every one of them.
Yeah.
But I think you're suggesting we don't have to spend time deliberating we can sort of, if it's pretty straightforward consensus. This
I
is
think
the
you-
criteria.
Yes.
As everybody feel, there could be a fairly quick, there could be a better, not better, a faster way to go through it. We don't have to sit there and sort of deliberate in
Yeah.
detail each and every one. Correct.
Because if I were to disagree with one of those pieces, then I would just vote in the negative.
Or you would at least bring it up to discuss it, and then you probably wouldn't have to worry about it because it would probably be a question that multiple people have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's an interpretation too, right?
Yeah.
Did you meet the criteria? Well, someone said you did, but did you meet the criteria?
Yeah.
There's criteria and then there's the interpretation of the criteria, how you got it, right?
Yeah.
I like the idea that you ask, instead of going through everything, does anyone have any questions regarding any of the criteria items? Yes, no. If you have a question regarding number 3, number 9, whatever it is, get your question out.
Yeah.
And deliberate. But otherwise, going through each and every one, and I mean, in theory, we've all read. I do, and I'm probably the one guilty of always asking questions. But I would rather question, someone's interpretation of, yes, I met that requirement. A lot of these are black and white, where you can read through it and they met that criteria. But then there's some that are, well, maybe they met the criteria. Did they really meet the criteria?
Yeah.
How did they meet the criteria, right? So I think if you change the way we deliberate or talk about it and say, does anyone have a question with respect to the criteria? Yes, no. Okay, you have a problem with number 3. Let's talk about it. The rest, why are we here to deliberate the same thing over and over again?
Yeah. I'm fine with that. Like I said, I mean, I see decisions all the time that have absolutely no discussion at all, but they have resolutions, which is a good reason for you guys to at least quickly say on the record, hey, staff recommends all 5 of these. Does anyone have any issue with them?
Yeah, I was gonna say, so
Yeah,
it's
like
kind
If
of-
I don't hear
we wanna
from
do it
you-
a little more streamlined, right? We're gonna
Yeah.
say, here's the criteria, can staff put the criteria up? So if there's people here, we always have a slide on it. Staff's obviously recommended and believes the application meets the following criteria. Anybody on the
Yeah.
planning commission have any specific criteria they want to talk about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then if you don't pull any off, then I think you're streamlined and it's clear what you said, and what you said was we're good, no problem. And then if you pull one off, you leave this conversation, because then you're going to have a conversation about it, and then there's going to be a record.
I like
We'll
that.
change our order sheet to go that
Yeah,
way.
I like
I like
Anybody
that too.
disagree with that?
And you guys are always welcome to start using more
big
resolutions
deal.
if you
And
want.
again,
Don't
you'll
necessarily change the sheet, because
Well-
really it's just
Well,
laying them all out and leaving
It's the
space for
sheet
notes, right?
Yeah,
Your
it's
sheet, maybe.
my sheet,
Your
right,
sheet.
or
Yeah.
the chair sheet,
Right.
or if you're the chair, you get
Yeah.
like provided it, just because there's a sort of outline that again, we were like, follow
Yeah, that's
these.
fair.
Yeah.
All
I
of
like
these
that.
steps, so we've been very formal about following those steps.
And that's, as staff, I really love that because it's, number one, it's setting the record really well. And if we would ever be challenged, you set the record well.
Right.
So I think what you're doing is phenomenal. I think it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like
With that, we're gonna go to our final, thank you for being here.
Yes.
I didn't mean to cut you short, I know
No.
you're at the end, I think we've got, anybody have any questions?
He's like,
Then-
finally.
I know, you're trying to get your sling
Yeah, as you can
back
see, I'm
on.
taking the sling off and on. And I really don't need it
You're
anymore.
recovered. You look good.
Well,
I
Yeah.
mostly wear it like socially, so that people know I'm like hurt and I can't use my arm. But once people see me in it for a while, I'm just gonna take it off.
You're using your arm. You look pretty good.
Yeah, I
milking
have to
it.
put it on and off. So.
Well, we appreciate the time,
Yeah.
we appreciate the time tonight clarifying these, and we appreciate having you at our
And
more
I'm always-
controversial.
I'm always here. I think I'm home for the next couple of meetings in a row.
All right.
All right. Then the next thing we have just is the staff reports, anything from the town board hearings, upcoming opportunities for plan commission members, and updates on like sort of our next meetings.
Yeah, so Chair, let's see here. At our, we had a town trustees meeting on the 30th. And Bella, do you wanna talk about what happened with 224 Mountain?
Sure. We had a request for a major alteration to a historic landmark in town. It was a very, very hot button topic of a door being added to the side of a building, a single door. But per code, we had to take it as a major alteration, and it was a very quick and easy item. It was recommended for approval by HPAC at their meeting on May 11th, and then approved by the town board at their last meeting. And it was a great opportunity. The applicant was actually the Berthoud Historical Society, so they did a great job of working with town staff and with the HPAC to bring that application forward. And the process, once we kind of got all the kinks ironed out, was fairly relatively straightforward. And so that was a great example for, hopefully historic landmark owners to see that the process isn't as onerous as it may seem. So it was a good meeting.
Yep, and then we had a Habitat for Humanity fee waiver, on Remuda in Harvest 47. And then Ton presented, the landscape code with the little symbols for Firewise plants that you all approved. So it went to the town trustees and they approved it as well. And then something that's not directly related to the land use code or planning commission. It is a commitment that we've made to try to streamline and expedite our processes and make them more transparent. Is the town is adopting or going to contract with a company called PSD Citywide. And this is going to, right now, all of our land use processes are manual. We are sending out the postcards. We are the ones that write the letters. We are, accepting the applications via email or a Dropbox, and then we're getting everything filed and then getting it over to Laserfiche and scanning all the documents. Bella and Lakin have been scanning pros now for over a year, digitizing all of our paper. So what PSD Citywide is going to do is it's a platform, and they have an out-of-the-box module for asset management, so for our operations team, and then they also have out-of-the-box modules for building permits and planning permits, and we're going to be working with them over the next 12 to 18 months to customize their out-of-the-box products so that any applicant, you submit it through this platform for both planning, engineering, building, And any citizen can go in and take a look at all of the referral agency comments, all of the renditions of staff reports, every single application material. Everything is going to be 100% online for the public, 24/7, 365. We are so excited about this, and it will auto generate referral letters, and it will let us know when a referral comes in. So no longer does the applicant have to wait for the referral to come to us and then the referral to go out to them. The referral will be immediately available to both staff and the applicant and the public. So that is a very expensive endeavor. I think it's about $150, maybe for the first year to get us set up. And then it's $60,000 plus a 5% inflationary raise every year while we use it. And what's wonderful is they can grow that module. They offer finance and utility billing and communications and all of these other modules as well. So we're going to have our business license. All of our processes are going to be on this platform. And then the platform talks to Cassell. This platform talks to some of the others that we already use. What is absolutely beautiful for Berthoud is we don't have a lot of little standalone platforms that have been Band-Aid fixes. We really have been a community that's grown very quickly. However, we've grown in a responsible way where we just haven't purchased software for the sake of purchasing software. So we've made this commitment. It took over a year to get to this decision. Lots of demos, lots of calling, their referrals and everything. And we're just really excited. So Nathan Gabbard, the GIS analyst in community development, he's going to be leading it up. Bella's going to be leading it for planning. We have a building permit tech that will be leading it. So we're all working together and we're really excited about this. So who knows, your packets, no, they'll still be this way. However, you'll be able to actually get in and maybe see more as well. So we're really excited about that. All right, so that happened in the past. And then looking for the future. So HPAC is on Monday. And then on the 14th with the town trustees, Tundra Flats, which is that neighborhood master plan and rezoning that you heard about a month ago, that will be going to the town board. And that is the one where you all recommended denial of the apartment with the commercial. Also, we'll be having the Proposition 123 compliance. We have a very old intergovernmental agreement with Larimer County. And again, that's kind of the boundary agreement and what happens. Larimer County is very agreeable to work with communities where if a developer approaches the county to develop in our urban growth boundary area, however, it's not in the town yet, Larimer County will direct them to go to the town first so that we can control our destiny, so to speak, with design and infrastructure impact. Well, our intergovernmental agreement is about 25 years old. So we're going to ask the town to go, ask the trustees, can we go ahead and can we update our intergovernmental agreement? So then when we do that, Larimer County does the majority of the work because it's their residents in unincorporated Larimer and yet still within our urban growth boundary. So there will be a lot of conversations and outreach that will happen. And our goal is, excuse me, just to continue to collaborate really nicely with Larimer County. They do an excellent job in collaborating with their communities. So we're going to present that concept to the trustees and just find out if they want to update their intergovernmental agreement. And then for you all, on July 23rd, we do have a land use case. I guess I won't say anything else. Nick will be here. Anyway, And then there are two
In better
openings.
shape.
Yeah, I have to be careful because I don't want to influence anything.
slides on it.
Yes, you did. There are two openings on Planning Commission, and they're just standard openings because Commissioner Semidalis's position is open. He would need to reapply if he would want to, and then Commissioner Hoffman's position is open as well. So, and either are open to reapply if they so choose. If not, I believe we've already had 5 applicants for the 2 positions. The interviews will be on the 27th with Chair Sigmund and 2 members of the town trustees, and then staff I just sit in a corner and listen. And then the appointment will be by the town trustees on the 28th of July. And then we've already selected 3 days, afternoons and a morning, where we will have the orientation with the 2 new members. So what's really nice is our town clerk now has you all on a rotation where it's 2 commissioners 1 year, 2 commissioners another year, and then 3 commissioners that other year. And you all rotate so that we don't have everybody leaving all at once because term limits or whatever. We're now in a good rotation, so it's seasoning for you all. And we would love to have you all run again. So you do a great job, and it makes our lives a lot easier.
I don't think I got a calendar invite for the 27th.
Christian the town clerk will send that out.
Okay.
Yes, but just hold it for that evening.
This is the first time I heard for sure.
Yep. And they will appoint the selection committee next Tuesday. So as soon as I know in the affirmative who's going to be on that committee and that it is selected, I'll definitely let you know. And
that's usually in the evening.
Usually around 6. What?
Oh, I have one more thing too.
Oh,
I have another HPAC item for you all, a success story. So since I haven't seen you all since the in-person walking tour, we had an amazing turnout. Over 50 people came to the historic walking tour of downtown Berthoud. It was our first one we've ever run. And we've had a lot of great feedback and folks asking when the next one is going to be. So I'm hoping to discuss that with HPAC at our next meeting and keep you all informed on when that program might be expanding. So, yeah.
and other than that, yeah, that was an amazing success.
Yes, yeah, it was wonderful.
And other than that, I think we have a lot of notes, and we learned from our attorney as well on things that we can do. And so you'll start seeing some changes. And we have some follow-up notes as well. Cost of a standard habitat home, we'll find out for you, and we'll just send that in an email.
I actually did find that out
I did see
during
there's
this
a
meeting.
cap of 425,000.
Yes, it's in the low 400s generally. Yeah.
And that came down too, I thought. Wasn't that number higher last year?
That was from
I have to say, I
2023 is when they put that
400,
cap on, right?
Yeah.
I was going to blurt out. I
That's
think
been
it's right
there
around
since
the
2023.
That's fine. That's all I need to know. It's just a general
Yeah.
idea.
All right, great.
Before
Easy.
we
There you
entertain
go.
a motion to adjourn, does anybody have any final questions or comments for staff?
I do. I have a very important one. This is coming from my grandchildren. Okay. They want to know what happened at the McDonald's, why it's closed down.
Foundation's
Do we
collapsing.
know that?
So, McDonald's is closed because there has been some settling of their property, and to an extent where they felt as if it was in the best interest of public safety not to have it open. So they're working through things, and we'll see what their next steps are.
I know that. But they love their French fries, so.
All right. With that, can I have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody want to stay? All right. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.